She stood there, frozen, as his hand connected with her shoulder, shoving her backward into the clothing rack. The entire store went silent. People stopped mid-conversation, phones were lowered, and all eyes turned to watch. He leaned in close, his breath hot against her face, and said the words that would seal his fate. "You're nothing. You'll always be nothing." But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the woman he just humiliated had spent the last 3 years building something he could never touch, never destroy. And the man walking through those glass doors right now? He was about to make sure everyone in that mall knew exactly who she had become. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and 6 years ago, I left everything I knew behind. Not by choice, but because staying would have destroyed me. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your business before you do. I married young, 22, to a man named Marcus Webb. He was charming at first, the kind of guy who knew exactly what to say to make you feel special. But charm has a way of masking cruelty, and by our second anniversary, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. Marcus didn't hit me, not physically anyway, but his words cut deeper than any fist ever could. He controlled everything, my friends, my job, even the clothes I wore. When I finally found the courage to leave, I had $300 in cash, a duffel bag of clothes, and a Greyhound bus ticket to Chicago. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just disappeared. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Chicago was overwhelming at first. The noise, the crowds, the sheer speed of everything. I found a tiny studio apartment in a neighborhood that wasn't exactly safe, but it was all I could afford. The landlord, an older woman named Mrs. Second, Chen, took pity on me. She could see I was running from something, though she never asked what. I got a job waitressing at a diner on the north side, working double shifts just to make rent. The work was exhausting, my feet ached constantly, and some nights I'd come home and cry myself to sleep, wondering if I'd made the right choice. But something kept me going. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was the small voice in my head that whispered, "You deserve better than what he told you that you were." I started taking online courses at night, business management and marketing. I had this idea, this dream really, of starting my own consulting firm. It seemed impossible at the time, but I held on to it anyway. 2 years passed like that. Working, studying, saving, every penny I could. I avoided social media, avoided anything that might connect me back to my old life. Then one day, Mrs. Chen told me about a networking event downtown. She insisted I go, said I needed to meet people if I ever wanted to grow beyond that diner. So I went, wearing a dress I'd bought from a thrift store and shoes that pinched my toes. That's where I met David Park. He wasn't flashy or loud. He was sitting alone at a table near the back, nursing a whiskey and looking as out of place as I felt. We started talking, and I learned he ran a tech startup that was struggling to find its footing. He was brilliant but had no idea how to market his product. I offered some suggestions, just casual conversation really, but he was impressed. 2 weeks later, he called me and offered me a consulting contract. It wasn't much money, but it was a start. That contract led to another, and then another. Within a year, I had enough clients to quit the diner and focus on my business full-time. 3 years after leaving Ohio, I had built something real. My consulting firm, Mitchell Strategy Group, had a small but dedicated team, and a client list that included some impressive names. I moved into a nicer apartment, nothing extravagant but comfortable. I started dressing better, taking care of myself in ways I hadn't been able to before. And I met someone. His name was James Chen, Mrs. Decker, Chen's nephew. He was a lawyer, calm and steady, the complete opposite of Marcus. We took things slow. He knew about my past, the broad strokes anyway, and he never pushed me to share more than I was ready to. For the first time in years, I felt safe. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could have a normal life. But the past has a way of catching up with you, doesn't it? One Saturday afternoon, James and I decided to visit a new shopping mall that had just opened on the south side. It was massive, 3 floors of stores and restaurants, the kind of place that draws crowds from all over the city. We were walking through the main concourse, hand in hand, when I heard a voice that made my blood run cold. "Sarah? Sarah Mitchell." I turned, and there he was, Marcus Webb, looking older but still carrying that same arrogant smirk. He was with a woman I didn't recognize, blonde and overdressed, clinging to his arm like a trophy. My first instinct was to run, but James squeezed my hand, grounding me. "It is you," Marcus said, stepping closer. "Wow, I can't believe it. What are you doing in Chicago?" I forced myself to stay calm. "I live here," I said simply. "Have for years." He looked me up and down, taking in my clothes, my hair, the confidence I'd worked so hard to build. And then his expression shifted, that familiar sneer creeping back onto his face. "Living here, huh?" Must be doing all right for yourself. Or did you find another guy to take care of you? I felt James tense beside me, but I put a hand on his arm, stopping him from saying anything. I take care of myself, Marcus, I said evenly. I always have. He laughed, a sharp, mocking sound that drew the attention of nearby shoppers. Right, because you were so capable when we were together. You couldn't even keep a job without me pushing you. The woman on his arm looked uncomfortable, but she didn't say anything. Things change, I said. People grow. You should try it sometime. That's when his expression darkened. He stepped forward, closing the distance between us, and I could smell the faint scent of cologne mixed with something sour, maybe alcohol. You think you're better than me now? He said, his voice low and dangerous. You think leaving makes you some kind of hero? Before I could respond, he reached out and shoved me, hard, right in the chest. I stumbled backward, crashing into a display of handbags. The sound of items clattering to the floor echoed through the store, and suddenly everyone was staring. My heart was pounding, not from fear but from anger. I stood up slowly, brushing myself off, and looked him straight in the eye. You're pathetic, I said quietly. That's when James stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice, didn't make a scene. He simply positioned himself between Marcus and me, his posture calm but unmistakably protective. I think you should leave, James said. Marcus looked at him, sizing him up, and then laughed again. Who the hell are you? Someone who knows when to walk away, James replied. For a moment, I thought Marcus might actually take a swing at him. His fists clenched, his jaw tightened, and I could see the rage building in his eyes. But then something shifted. Maybe it was the crowd watching, or maybe it was the security guard who had started walking toward us. Whatever it was, Marcus took a step back. You're not worth it, he muttered, grabbing the blonde woman's arm and pulling her away. As they disappeared into the crowd, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. James turned to me, concern written all over his face. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded, though my hands were still shaking. Yeah, I'm okay. But I wasn't, not really. Seeing Marcus again had torn open wounds I thought had healed. That night, back at my apartment, I told James everything. The full story of my marriage, the emotional abuse, the way Marcus had made me feel small and worthless for years. James listened without interrupting. And when I was done, he took my hand. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, he said. What he did to you, what he said today, none of that defines who you are. I wanted to believe him, but doubt lingered. What if Marcus was right? What if I was still that scared girl who ran away with nothing? The next morning, I woke up to a missed call from an unknown number. When I checked my voicemail, it was Marcus. His voice was slurred, clearly drunk. You think you have one, Sarah? You think your little boyfriend scares me? You're still nothing. You'll always be nothing. I deleted the message, but it stayed with me. For days, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching, waiting for another chance to tear me down. Then, about a week later, I got a call from an old friend back in Ohio. She'd heard through the grapevine that Marcus had been telling people I'd stolen money from him when I left, that I was unstable and dangerous. It was all lies, of course, but the damage was done. People I used to know were calling me, asking if it was true, if I'd really done those things. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but James had a better idea. Marcus didn't say anything after that. He just got in his car and drove away, and I never saw him again. A few months later, I heard through that same friend in Ohio that he'd moved to another state, started a new job. I hoped for his sake and for whoever else might cross his path, that he'd learn something. As for me, I kept building. My business grew, my relationship with James deepened, and slowly, the weight of those years with Marcus began to lift. I learned that walking away wasn't weakness, it was survival. And survival, I realized, was just the first step towards something greater. So I want to ask you, if you were in my position, would you have confronted him, or would you have walked away? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that remind us all that we're stronger than we think.